So in this video, I'm going to show you how to start printing cards at home, whether you want to do that for personal use or if you want to start selling them. And if you don't know who I am, hi, I'm Jordan. I have been selling greeting cards for about 8 years, and most of that time I was printing them at home up until the last year and a half. I started outsourcing. When I first started out, I was using just a regular standard color printer, nothing fancy, and I think it was just cardstock from Michaels. But then eventually I wanted to start wholesaling my products, and I wanted to have a more professional feeling card. And your normal like standard printer, they can't handle thicker cardstock, so I knew I needed to get a new printer. So the first printer I bought was an Epson Artisan 1430. I believe that's the number. It's been a long time, but that died on me Black Friday one of the years. It just refused to print. I think it was red and green, and it was around Christmas, and I was like, these are the two colors I needed to be able to print. So I had to hurry up and buy a new printer, and so I went with the Canon PIXMA Pro 100. Since then, I've upgraded to the 200, only because during COVID, you couldn't find ink anywhere. And the 100 at that point was a few years old. And so I was like, well, I might as well just get a new printer, get the ink, because the ink for the 200 was readily available. What I will say about the Canons compared to the Epson is that they are a lot more picky with cardstock. So they print on like photo paper beautifully. Like, it's unreal how perfect they print on photo paper. Cardstock, on the other hand, I had to easily go through like 10 different types before I found one that was sturdy enough and printed good. Basically, I was running into lots of issues. I landed on one that I love, and I've been using them ever since, up until I started outsourcing. What I've always done from the beginning is I cut my 8.5 by 11 paper in half, so it's the size of an A2 greeting card. And I find that to be the easiest because if you're doing like a full color print and you have to cut down the line, you have to cut it exactly precise. And I don't know about you, but I can't do that. It's never 100% accurate, and I just didn't like the idea of some of the color being onto the other card. So this is what I use to print all my cards. It's a Fiskars paper trimmer, and yeah, you've probably seen something like this before, but you definitely are gonna need a paper cutter, having a scoring board like this. This is the Martha Stewart one, and when I got it, it was about like $15, and now every time I look on Amazon, it's a different price. So if you can find this in Michaels or something like that, get something similar to this. It basically just helps you score down the middle of the card, and it makes it easier to fold. So that's the main two things you're gonna need. Obviously, you're also gonna need a printer, paper, and envelopes. I like using craft envelopes, and you can get those from Michaels, Amazon, wherever. I will say that I get my paper and envelopes from, what are they called? French Paper. They are a local Michigan business, so I like supporting them mostly because they're from Michigan, but also because they have really nice envelopes. Sometimes craft envelopes can be scratchy, and I don't really like that texture, so I like that the craft envelopes that they have are smooth enough to write on them. I will leave some more recommendations in the description. It all just depends on what you need and what you're using them for. It's all personal preference, so what I like might not be what you like, and vice versa. Now the next thing you're gonna need is a design to print. Whether you are making it yourself or you are buying one of my printable greeting cards, you're gonna want to make sure the card is sized to A2 or letter. So I'm currently editing the video, and I talk about how you want A2 size greeting cards, and I didn't really mention why. So number one, if you are selling them wholesale or anything like that, you're gonna want to do A2 because they are smaller than 5x7. So I actually have a 5x7 print right here. So here is the difference between A2 and 5x7. That's a huge difference in the size card. Like, look at how much more space this takes up. So now think about if you had 10 cards in a row, that's like 1 or 2 cards more that they could be selling if they were doing A2. So from a retail perspective, brick and mortars are leaning more towards A2. This is just pretty much standard size in America. The second reason I recommend it is because you can print 2 on one sheet, or you can cut and get 2 out of that one sheet. So for 5x7, you can get 1 card per sheet. So that means when I'm doing an A2 card, I'm literally saving half as much money as 5x7. So from a business perspective, it's a lot more cost effective to do A2 versus 5x7. The next reason I recommend it is because there's less space. I am the person who fills up this entire page. And if I have a lot to say, I will do both. I don't have 5x7 amount of things to say though. And maybe you're not the type of person who wants to write a whole novel in your cards. It kind of looks a little blank if you just write one thing all the way up here, then you have like literally an entire card size like empty. I'm just saying. So if you're not a writer, if you don't like writing things down, you might want the smaller one anyways. but to me, A2 just works out for me. You do whatever works best for you. So the letter size paper would come like this with 2 of them, and you would just cut it right at the 5.5-inch mark. I didn't leave a line for this because I don't want you to have the same struggle I had where you had to cut it perfectly on that line. I also have just A2 size cards as well. Okay, so I'm gonna cut out my sheet of paper. I'm going to cut it at the 5.5-inch mark. And so I'll just hold that down, cut, and there you go. You have 2 sheets of paper. So I'm actually going to show you with the paper I used to use, as well as this polar matte paper, which prints beautifully, but it's really hard to cut. It's very thick paper, so you can hear this one's going to be harder to cut. So definitely possible, but you'll see when I go to fold it that you have some cracking. So I'm going to show you the comparison between the polar matte and the regular cardstock that I use. You can also see that this one's a little bit creamier and this one's whiter. Now that I've got the paper loaded, I'm going to come back to my computer, hit print. I'm going to select my printer. So for this printer, I had to create a custom size, and you can see the custom size is 5.5 by 8.5, which is the size of this whole sheet. And I'm going to hit print. Okay, so here are the right out of the printer results. I hope you can see the difference is that this one's a little bit more vibrant, this one's a little bit more faded, but overall the actual print quality is great on both of them. So the main difference with the 2 papers is this one's a little bit more vibrant. The colors are a little bit more true to what they were on screen, but if you never saw this, you would still think this one's pretty great as well. Now, where this one lacked a little bit was the next step. After you've printed, you are going to score them. So to fold it in half, you score at the A2 line, which is 4.25. What I found to just work for me is I hold down on both sides so that it doesn't move when you're coming down, and then you just drag it along that line, okay? And we'll do this one. This one's gonna be easier. And then you're just gonna fold this, and you could just leave that as the step and put the envelope right in, but I like to just run it over one time. And this one, you can already see this one's a lot harder to fold. That's why this part is crucial to this card. However, when I was using this paper, some shipments of this would make this spine crack. Right now, this one looks fine. I just wanted to let you know that sometimes this one did crack on the spine when I would fold it. So it's a really high quality paper, works really nicely with the Canon printers. But you can see they both stand up. That was kind of my test. Do they stand up on their own? If they fell over, I felt like that was too flimsy of a card to sell. For personal use, it was totally acceptable though. So what are your thoughts? Are you gonna try printing cards at home, or is this something that you're not even interested in? You'd rather drive to the store? For me, I love the convenience of if there's a last minute birthday party or something like that, I can just print a card at home and I don't have to go out to the store and get a cheesy card. I can get the one that I want. Also, let me know which card did you prefer? Did you prefer the polar matte or the standard cardstock? And I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you are not a designer but you want to be able to buy cards that you can print at home, I have over 50 designs on my website now, and whether it's a congrats, graduation, a new baby, anything you need a card for, I probably have something. And if you have any questions at all about selling, making any part of the greeting card process, let me know. Like I said earlier, I've been doing this for 8 years, so I have lots of answers to give, and I am so happy to help.